The November election still 11 months away. We've got the June primary first up. And that's, coming up pretty quick. And we also got the filing period that starts mid-January. Well, let me be clear. That's not when the filing period starts. The filing period actually starts in March. But candidates who want to get on the primary ballot, they can start circulating petitions starting January 13th. While we're still waiting on what happens with the legislative maps that are in federal court right now, and they're set to start hearing arguments about the state legislative maps after 9 o'clock this morning, we've got statewide candidates that are already announcing that they are seeking the nomination for their party for particular offices. One in particular is very interesting because the man who's held the office for 20 plus years, Jesse White, he's no longer going to be the Secretary of State after January of 2023. That's because he announced he's not running in the November 2022 election. So we still got a lot of time to hear from all kinds of candidates, and a lot have announced for their individual parties, a couple for the Republicans, and then several for the Democrats. Joining us now to talk about her candidacy is Anna Valencia. She is running to get the party nomination for Secretary of State, and you're running as a Democrat. What sets you aside from some of the other Democrats that are running for office?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate the time. Actually, I am a downstater. I'm from the Metro East, Granite City, born and bred. My parents still live in the same house 40 years. My dad's in the trades. He's a painter. He's been there for 37 years. My mom worked at a nonprofit. And because of them and a public high school teacher who saw something in me, they helped me apply to college. And I was first in my family to get to college. And I tell you this because this is where my values come from. It's where I lead from. And I'm the only candidate as Secretary of State actually from downstate in this race.
So what qualifications do you have that might say, one candidate that's running to get the Democrats nomination is a former statewide office holder? Alexi Janulius, he was the treasurer at one point, and he says that he's got the experience to run a statewide office. That's a big office, the Secretary of State's office. You're talking $500 million plus of a budget, 4,000 employees, all kinds of different services. Tell us about your qualifications.
So yes, I actually have been the Chicago City Clerk for the last 5 years in executive office. I've managed large budgets and a large staff, and I've had the results from the last 5 years of numerous policies that we've been able to execute. I've also ran statewide campaigns, and again, I have that downstate perspective from a working class family and also serving Chicago, that I can be that bridge builder between downstate and Chicago. And so I have that executive experience that has led. And when we're talking about millions of dollars coming in from the infrastructure bill here in Illinois, we want someone who understands us, who gets us, that knows that we can't wait in lines for 4 hours at the DMV when you're a mom, which I am. My daughter, there will be not enough snacks for my daughter to wait in line for that. And there are so many issues like that for parents and families around the state that we got to make sure our services are accessible, online, and easy to get to. And so that's the experience that I bring from an executive office. I've been around the last 5 years. I get things done, and I understand the needs of our working families here in Illinois.
We're talking with Anna Valencia. She is running to get the Democratic Party nomination for Secretary of State. And of course, Jesse White's not seeking another term. He's been in the office for 20 plus years. Anna, you of course there's a long runway here before the primary, and even a longer runway until the November election. So we'll have plenty of opportunity to connect again. But just give us some information about where people can find out more about you and about your policy positions, and how they can see if they want to support you.
Yes, you can check out my website at voteannavalencia.com to check out all of our policy ideas. We are talking about modernizing our libraries and bringing broadband access to every library, which we think will definitely get money from the feds to do that. We're talking about overhauling infrastructure and building on Secretary White's legacy. We're talking about a paid youth jobs program called the Civics Corps to allow our young people to register voters in their communities. So we have the vision, we have the ideas, And mostly we understand all the perspectives around the state that need to be at the table that don't always have a voice. And that's what we're going to represent in this race.
Well,
So
and
thank you, Greg, for the
yeah.
time.
And just here briefly, real quick. I mean, there's a lot of things the Secretary of State does, right? I mean, a lot of
Yes,
course, people think about their driver's license. They think about lines at the DMV. Kind of hard not
yes.
to think about that. But what do you think's the most important thing people need to know outside of the driver's service facilities that the Secretary of State does for taxpayers?
Yes, so one of the things, our library system. I grew up in my library in Granite City, and we also know that our libraries are not always the same because a lot of times they're based on property taxes. So we really want to help lift our libraries so that they have access to broadband and Wi-Fi because I heard from families in McLean County that would pull into their libraries because they were closed during the pandemic, but use their Wi-Fi to get their kids e-learning materials. So I think that's really important that everyone has access to that broadband and digital labs, makers labs, things that their communities can use to get the skills they need for workforce, for their, to get into college, whatever it may be. So that's something that a lot of people don't understand is that the Secretary of State is your chief librarian. We also oversee consumer protection and make sure there's not fraud going on. So there's a lot of things that we can do for seniors. So I'm very excited to talk about this race. We've got a great ideas, but most importantly, Greg, we can implement these ideas. And we're looking at government in a different way, being more innovative and outside the box, and using those scarce resources we have to make things work for people and the taxpayers. And that's what I'm about.
Anna Valencia, again, give us your website.
It is voteannavalencia.com. Sign up and be with this winning historic campaign.
Greatly appreciated. I imagine we'll talk again before the primary, if not once, a couple of times. So we'll definitely stay in touch. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Looking
Absolutely.
forward to it.
It is the WMAY morning news feed now 8:47.